Hello, this is Mark Brown again, talking about project management. I'm giving the 10 commandments for successful IT project management for sponsors, particularly, and for project managers who may be listening. And the eighth commandment, which what we're on now, is thou shalt not ignore your end users. Okay, I could press stop and that would be it. But I'm going to expand on this a little. I've done this myself, so I am guilty of breaking this commandment myself because we get so involved and so focused on the work being done for the project. Now, this is particular for the sponsors, and the sponsors can be very helpful here, in particular with a project manager who, as they're getting to the end of the project and trying to marshal everything, they tend to get more focused on the project work and less focused on the affected end users. And things like communicating with the users, doing usability studies with them, checking design things with them, other checks to checks that what their expectations is, and a project manager is supposed to stay on top of this, but can get overwhelmed, especially on larger. I've talked about this earlier, larger projects. It is the sponsor who is looking at this from the business perspective needs to ensure that the project is fulfilling what it said it would do and is meeting the scope and the criteria of what the end users have said. In project management, the effectiveness and the influence of your stakeholders does wane as projects do get further completed. To ensure that you don't ignore those end users, you have to keep communication open. And I've talked about this before with transparency. And this ties into transparency again by checking with the end users. Because at the end of the day, as well, from a project manager's perspective, they don't want to be caught up in a project that turns into an operation and then they're running that operation, because that takes away from their effectiveness as being a project manager. Their work is meant to be temporary, they're meant to be able to hand off. It's also important that a sponsor fully understands how the handoff is going to happen, because their business may have asked for this requirement on this project, but they may not have so factored in how it gets turned over to operations and who takes responsibility for it. So the sponsor needs to be very much involved here to keep things on track and to keep that connection with the end users. Again, assisting, not micromanaging, but assisting the project manager to stay in touch with end users, and also making sure that the project does get turned over after successfully completed into operations and into the business, so that the project manager and the resources are free to do what they're supposed to do, and the project manager moves on to the next job or next project that they're supposed to do. This is very, very, very important. Don't ignore your end users. Be very, very focused on them. And one of the most effective ways of doing that is to be human centered. So it's not about the project, it's about the people you're serving with the project. That's key, that's central. You can't ignore that. And if your projects are human centered, you will never ignore the end users, or if you go astray because you're human centered, you'll come back to the end users. Because at the end of the day, our projects, and this is the problem, project management has forgotten that projects are rolled out to help people do something that they couldn't do before, or are trying to do something new. It's run by people, it's for people, and people are affected by it. And we need to have that human centered aspect of it. So don't, Commandment 8, don't ignore your end users. Pay attention to them at all times and make sure that they are informed, and be human centered in your project management. I'll be back to you with the ninth commandment in a bit.